Okay, we can start whenever
start?
we're ready.
I think few people are still coming in. See old colleagues coming in. Okay, maybe it pings in the meantime, but let's start. If everybody can mute apart from Alessandro, that would be great.
Sì, un attimo, sono in riunione, lo faccio mentre sono in riunione.
I hear some Italians on the back, so if we can switch the mics, that would be great. Okay, let's start this webinar. So nice to have you all here. Very nice to have a good group with us. And I see the topic seems to be a hot topic that we are quite many. So we have been supporting and taking part of the TTO circle for many years. It has been launched actually by the JRC and my predecessor many years ago. And we have now with us Alessandro Fazio, and Asia will connect within the next 5 minutes. And Alessandro is now the head of the Joint Research Center, the Competence Center on Tech Transfer, and heading the TTO circle with colleagues in the JRC. And he has been a very active member of the European Commission new task force on startups and scale-up. You all have seen the strategy that came out end of last week as a present for the May weekend. So I hope you guys also had the chance to read the final documents. I think most of us have looked at the Euractiv leaked document, but interesting to read and check the final ones. So we're so happy Alessandro is with us. He has worked also in the TTO circle for many years, and I think in tech transfer and other dossiers before. So we really have an expert with us. And later on, I will introduce Azier, who has been a board member of the TTO circle for many years as well. I have to say I have also been an active member of the TTO circle for some time, and I think it's great to see some of the knowledge of that group shared around. And we thought, well, there's a nice new report out, and time to advertise, the job that has been done. So, Alessandro, thank you so much for taking the time for us this afternoon, and then I'll let you introduce what you did, the work of the task force, the group, TTO circle, and then Asia will present the latest report. So, Frost, it's to you. And thanks for joining us again today.
Thank you very much, Muriel, for such an eloquent and flattering introduction. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Alessandro Fazio. Muriel has called me an expert in technology transfer. I'm not sure about that, but I have spent such a lengthy amount of time that I hope to have learned something about it, if nothing else by osmosis. When I say such a long time, I think we're going back to the origins of the TTO Circle, which is a network that was set up in 2011. So it's close to 15 years old. And when together with Muriel, we put this group of people together, we wanted to create the G20 of technology transfer. As a matter of fact, we've ended up with 35 members, all of them technology transfer officers of the large RTOs from across the EU and also some non-EU countries. It's a network that we have created mostly to exchange best practices and help the members to compare notes and learn from each other about what makes the technology commercialization and exploitation process successful. And over the years, we have exchanged on a number of issues and focused on a number of industry. And today, I believe it's a network that carries quite some weight just because of the sheer numbers behind the organizations that represent it. We're talking about more than 200,000 researchers, tens of thousands of patents, of around 4,000 startups from across Europe. So it's a meaningful congregation. Let's put it like that. But today we're not here to talk exclusively about the TTO circle. We are here to talk about a report that we at the JRC have recently completed together with members of the TTO circle. And it's a report looking in particular at deep tech entrepreneurship and what role RTOs and technology transfer offices in RTOs can play in creating impactful industrial spin-offs that are not just successful companies in their own rights, but that can also help to activate new value chains, push and accelerate regional reindustrialization, and so on and so forth. Now, I obviously do not want to steal Azier's fire, because he will talk about the report at great length. But I would like to say that it comes at a particularly crucial or even critical time for the European Union, because as Muriel said, we have just adopted last week the strategy, the EU strategy for startups and scale-ups. This is something that has been cooking at the Commission for about 7 or 8 months, and it's been put together mostly by a task force composed of representatives from different services that has worked tirelessly on it over the last 7 or 8 months, and of which I've been privileged enough to be a member. Now, I am sure that you have all seen the strategy, whether the version that was leaked to Euractiv a few weeks ago or the one that was adopted last week. But let's say that it is very aspirational and very ambitious, and it aims to tackle a number of areas that are critical for the success of startups and scale-ups in the EU. So it's looking, of course, at innovation-friendly regulation, things like the much talked about 28th regime, the European Innovation Act, the revision of the standardization regulation. It's looking, of course, at financing for startups and scale-ups, so it contemplates or encourages an expansion of the European Innovation Council, the creation of a Scale-up Europe Fund, new approaches to IP valuation, support or greater support for business angels, revisions of definitions for undertaking in difficulty, and bankruptcy and restructuring provisions. It's looking also at how to attract talent, so the so-called blue carpet initiative. It's looking at how to streamline the way startups and scale-ups can access research and technology infrastructures in Europe, at clarifying some of the state aid implications in that area. But staying close to the matter at hand today, it's also looking at market uptake and expansion, and in particular there is a lab to unicorn initiative that the Commission has committed to implementing in 2026, which is really looking at the technology transfer conundrum in quite some detail. It intends to adopt a blueprint for licensing, royalty sharing, and revenue sharing, to lay down some suggestions and provide advice on how academic institutions and RTO can get equity participation in spin-out companies. And I'm also very proud to say that, among other things, it specifically encourages capacity building measures supporting technology transfer offices and the creation of venture builders in RTOs. Now, this last recommendation in particular is a direct result of the study that we are going to talk about today, which has actually looked at a number of spin-off companies created by RTOs that are members of the TTO circle and how they have fared on the market over the last few years and what difficulties and challenges they encountered, as well as how they maintained and used their relationship with the RTOs that supported their creation. I think that is where I stop by way of introduction, and if Asier is with us already, I would cede the floor to him to tell us all about this very, very interesting piece of work. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Alessandro. And we come back to you should there be questions on how the task force worked or more on the JRC Competence Center as well. So let's move to Asier. I believe Asier is with us. There's so many people, I don't see all the videos, so I hope I can see you as well, Asier. And maybe we have to highlight you as a speaker.
Yeah,
Great.
Good afternoon. Apologies.
Good afternoon.
I just joined when Alessandro was initiating his conversation. So good afternoon, everyone. Can you see the presentation? Everything
Yes,
okay?
we can. Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So let's I'm not going to the plan here is just to run quickly through some highlights of this report, trying to spend some time on some of the recommendations as Alessandro mentioned that have been finally integrated into this task force of startups and scale-ups. The report finally was timely, came timely to, let's say, the market, just following Draghi's report and when the task force was created. And in the origin of this report, we realized at TTO Circle, but also at the EARTO level, and probably you colleagues, you will feel a similar pain, that there was plenty of hype revolving around deep tech entrepreneurship in Europe. And we wanted to put forward the crucial role that RTOs play in fostering. In this particular case, we focus on impactful industrial spin-offs, and this was the aim and the context where we produced this report in the context of the TTO circle. Already by Alessandro is being referred, is a sort of G35 of tech transfer offices in Europe. And basically with a focus or with a methodology focus on asking TTOs of those RTOs a bunch of questions to ascertain what is the role that they play in terms of fostering these spin-offs, and also asking them to put forward like 2 or 3 examples of impactful industrial deep tech spin-offs that they had produced over the last years. Actually, 64 companies were put forward, and 49 of those responded quite a comprehensive questionnaire made up of 64 questions. The idea was to shed light not only on the crucial role that RTOs play, and again, we quite often see that the universities are put on the limelight of this endeavor of producing impactful deep tech spin-offs coming out of labs, and we wanted also to sort of position our important role as RTOs, shedding light on what are the different type of impacts that we produce with our spin-offs, trying to shed some light also on KPIs. I'm going to get precisely back to the unicorns that probably is subject of certain frustration on your side when the simple indicator that is referred to in terms of ultimate success is the unicorn count. And we focus on the different endeavors in a team creation around those spin-offs, a topic that is quite critical for the success of the spin-offs, and we focus on policy recommendations that were highlighted by the RTOs and by the spin-offs, but also some of our own that Alessandro highlighted a few. In terms of deep tech, and I'm not going to actually spend much time, but we were focusing. There is obviously digital deep tech, but for the sake of this report that was ultimately focused on the impact of our spin-offs in terms of industrial or regional reindustrialization, we focus on the deep tech that is more related to industry and atoms. 8 to 10 years since the spin-offs were created. And this is the well-rounded team where we had Alessandro, we had also Sergio Grande, and we had our colleague also from academia, Oyana, and we also had our colleague from CA participating. In terms of the highlights coming from the TTO survey, I'm going just to stop on a few graphs. The rest you could cover them in the report, because definitely the Q&A can be quite interesting in the context of this webinar. When we ask about the motivations for TTOs for supporting the creation of spin-offs, the top three answers were aligned with fulfilling the organization's mission. I think that by now, RTOs, we all have taken conscience of how critical it is to focus on impact, and transfer technology to create wealth is one of the elements at the core of our missions. Generating GDP, or transforming technology into GDP, which is another variation, came also on top, but also enhancing IP value in terms of extracting economic benefits. The type of support provided is quite a wide array of support, ranging from IP to pre-maturation process, but also helping with marketing studies, helping beyond technical maturation into business development, or even in certain instances, supporting also the spin-offs with financing. The relationships of the TTOs with the spin-offs following the creation, definitely we keep in contact with them, collaborating in different projects, publicly funded projects, but also projects where the spin-offs are subcontracting us. We have licensing established, or royalties schemes established with these companies, and in certain cases we are also part of the cap table. When we were asking what were the most important challenges faced by TTOs in terms of supporting the creation of spin-offs, I think it came as no surprise that we struggle in team creation endeavors, where oftentimes we don't identify, or we cannot identify, the relevant people to integrate the teams of the spin-offs. But also it came that we oftentimes struggle to identify the right staff at the TTOs to support this type of activities. Finally, in terms of what are the KPIs in order to ascertain success in this context of fostering impactful deep tech spin-offs, we see that it is relevant for us, and certainly is the case also for Tecnalia, the jobs that are created, actually the quality of the jobs that are created. We are going to see later on that there are a high percentage of MBAs and PhDs among the ranks of those companies that we create. The valuation is relevant, but not necessarily 1 billion euro valuation. That is what determines whether a company is a unicorn or not. The lifespan of our companies, but also the impact on SDGs and a wide array of other elements, not just the focus on producing 1 billion euro companies. When we focus on the highlights coming from spin-offs, we first of all had this survey responded by CEOs or C-level people who oftentimes have been in the company since the onset, so they took their time to go through the survey. We had 13 different countries. As the team was with Laurence from CA and I, as you could see, in terms of France and Spain, there is a high percentage of responses, but very much 13 different countries, and in certain instances, there is only one country representing Norway at the TTO circle. Was like 100% of the countries represented at the TTO circle from that particular region. When we ask also to confirm when the companies were created, we did realize that these 5 to 10 years since creation has been mostly fulfilled. So most of the companies answering were in that time range. And in terms of sector and technologies, again, is quite representative, and we have a wide array of sectors and technologies being involved in this study. Just to make sure that we were also targeting industrial companies, we were asking about what was the percentage of the value proposition that hardware represented. And again, the lion's share of the responses went on companies quite intense in terms of hardware. In terms of manufacturing capabilities, most of them had their own manufacturing capabilities or had them outsourced, but thinking about integrating them following funding rounds. The regulatory risks were also a critical element in terms of the future success of these companies. As we can see, then was high impact of regulatory in terms of future success of the different ventures. And in terms of some of the insights, the first one is the important ongoing relationship that these success examples at the European level of impactful deep tech startups had with the RTO of origin. In fact, in this question, we were asking directly how important it was the original technology that was transferred by the RTO in the success of the spin-off from 1 to 10, 10 being very important. And you can see that most of the companies identify with punctuations above 8 that it was critical in their success. When we were asking what was the different services that RTOs provided that they valued the most, you can see that there is again a wide array of responses, but what is valued the most was the human capital, all the support that the companies were getting beyond the incorporation of the spin-offs, on different topics related to business or even finance that span well beyond just technology. What is the type of ownership that those companies have, or what is the relationship that RTOs maintain with those companies? In most of the instances, the RTOs are still part of the cap table of those companies, and they value it quite positively. In terms of a different type of impacts, when we focus on this type of companies, and this is the reason why we wanted to cover industrial deep tech companies, something very important is the ability to create new value chains. Because when we talk about deep tech, we are talking about creating new products that don't exist and creating new products, producing new supply chains and new value chains. And this is an important tool for fostering regional reindustrialization. That is one of the big mantras that is coming from European Commission. And we can see that 21% of the companies that we were interviewing are creating value chains with more than 25 suppliers that oftentimes are SMEs that see this opportunity to move into this value chain and as an opportunity to diversify into higher value chains. Even almost 10% have more than 100 providers, most of them from EU 27. Second realm of impact is employment. And we could see that 12% of the companies had already more than 60 employees in their companies. Again, it takes some time, as you perfectly know, for deep tech spin-offs to start recruiting massively, because you need to move into a sort of mass market conjuncture to start recruiting massively, let's say, employees in the company. But also, one of the hypotheses that we have is that probably the quality of the employment, measured in terms of percentage of PhDs and MBAs, could be quite relevant. And we have that pretty much 43% of the companies have more than 10% of employees with MBAs. And we have that 75% of the companies have more than 10% of PhDs. And you can see the actual breakdown. In certain cases, it's almost like 90%, 100% probably. This concerns companies that have been more recently created. But you will be surprised that there is not much literature in terms of quality of employment created by deep tech companies. And in this particular case, we have an example of actually deep tech companies that originate from European RTOs. Another realm of impact is the impact on SDG, on Sustainable Development Goals. It's not surprising that most of the companies impact, obviously, on industry innovation and infrastructure, because we were filtering actually for industrial deep tech. But climate action, good health, affordable and clean energy are other SDGs that are also affected. We wanted to focus on the complexity revolving around the team creation. How those deep tech companies were created, because we saw in an earlier chart the complexity, or that one of the main issues for creating spin-offs was to identify talent to join the companies. And what we can see is the amount of full-time employees in the context of the creation of the company. And it's quite worrying that still are companies created, 13 cases actually, with less than a team, with less than 2 people when the companies are incorporated. It is also a little bit worrying, or perhaps concerning, or certainly food for thought, that still a high percentage of people coming into the newcos when those are created are actually coming from the RTOs themselves, probably quite an endogamic figure emerge in these graphs. And the origin of the CEO, again, the lion's share of the responses is the RTO itself. Again, we have to think and how companies are created spin-offs, because it is required to merge or to blend different type of profiles. Here we had some statistics about even in the case of the success companies that we were focusing on, that sometimes those companies had to replace the CEO in the short term, and when the CEO was replaced, again the origin of those replacements oftentimes was the RTO itself. Definitely, team creation, we do realize that involves plenty of complexities, particularly when we need to create well-rounded teams with people who've been in the lab, but also merging with people with certain business acumen coming from other realms of activity or from other environments. In terms of what is the evolution of the company's ownership by the team, we see in blue the context where the companies were created, and then we see on orange the dilutions that are incurred. We can see also a wide array of differences where teams have all the way from 100% of the company to as little as 5% of the companies. In terms of policy recommendations, we ask the spin-offs themselves, and this is the section where the spin-offs themselves respond to the question of what could be changed or what could be improved. And it's quite interesting. We will be coming back to this graph. We are going to get straight into policy recommendations, that when we are asked about what are the ultimate outcome metrics for assessing success of a deep tech ecosystem, the RTO view and the spin-off view converge in terms of valuation, or certainly not the valuation that corresponds to the unicorn count being important, and other elements being more important, like impact on SDGs, the revenues generated, quality of the employment generated. All right. And we also see that one of the main challenges is talent. So when we ask the RTOs what was the main challenges to create RTO, to create the spin-offs, we saw that the staff or the team that will join the spin-off was a source of troubles to find this type of talent. But when we ask the spin-offs what are the most difficult profiles to find and attract to the team, it was a little bit surprising to the team that other than the sales profiles that we were expecting the response, industrialization profiles were another type of talent that was missing almost to the same point as the sales profiles. All right, so I'm not going to spend time. We have all the, or not much time. You have all the detail in the report. What are the challenges that spin-offs find? It can be lumped into different sections. Almost 43% of the companies were identifying funding as one of the main challenges, lack of sufficient funding, and sometimes lack of patient capital to support the long life cycles of developing deep tech solutions. Non-dilutive funding coming from public entities also presents some concerns in terms of justification, high administrative complexity, all the effort involved in searching and applying for this type of grants. So definitely a simplification of all this regulatory burden was suggested. Also, in terms of policies and regulations, we've heard Enrico Letta about the unique market for different sectors. Definitely, regulatory is a source of concern, not only in the medical sector, where we had some specific suggestions that were made, but in general, all the permitting involved in clean tech and in other particular areas was put forward with specific examples as something that will need to be looked into. And then it was a wide array of other suggestions, ranging from taxation on employee stock option plan to be more, let's say, fulfilling for the interest of the teams. And in general, different tools to the risk, particularly in the context of industrial ventures, to the risk with competitive public purchasing by the public sector to produce running hours of the different type of industrial concepts that could help get the companies into a mass market. Then we had a list of specific suggestions. Again, you have them all in the report. So I'm going to focus on some of the policy recommendations that we put forward, and actually some of them, as Alessandro mentioned, have integrated the guide that is being put forward by the task force on startups and scale-ups. The first one is the concept of venture building, which actually translates into the issues that we have to bring technologies that emanate from publicly funded projects straight to the market. So VCs are flocking lately in different geographies. The European Investment Bank being the largest LP, limited partner, the largest funder of investor in different type of VC funds, is fostering the creation of many VCs. But there is a problem because VCs invest in companies. We internally, we identify technologies, and we need a specific de-risking settings with well-rounded teams with different type of capabilities in terms of technological assessment of feasibility and people able to ascertain IP protection landscapes, people to be able to ascertain what is the complexity to industrialize those technologies, but at the same time, more financial profiles that can talk the lingo of the investors, ability to create those well-rounded teams that are a big struggle, the creation of teams where we have the sort of Wozniak maybe coming from the labs, but the Steve Jobs coming from the ecosystem, and someone helping put together those pieces with the right incentives, and also finally ability to focus on strategy and value creation dynamics in the companies that are incorporated with clear go-to-market strategy and governance. So being able, the tech transfer offices, to either evolve staffing themselves with the right profiles into venture builders, or fostering in Europe venture builders with those capabilities, skin in the game, and undertaking interim roles, could represent a little bit like the midfield in a football team, where at the moment we have the defense sort of producing promising technologies, and then we have strikers waiting for the ball to score goals, but the ball is basically to produce an investable company. And in the process, we need to have a better structure of midfielders, which role is to actually pass the ball from the defense to transform technologies into investable companies, into investable deep tech spin-offs for the VCs. Well, and just to finish with the venture builders, a bit of confusion also. A venture builder is not just a venture building program where you spend like 1 year or 6 months following different dynamics. Venture building is an ongoing process that could take longer or shorter in relation to the nature of the technology that gets into the system, but it's not just a matter of connecting some researchers with some consultant. Is actually getting a skin in the game and entering jobs to help materialize those technologies into investable opportunities. I'm not going to stop in each one of them because I think we should leave some time for Q&A. But then we wanted to put forward the programs that some RTOs are developing in terms of equity for services, looking to engage with companies that already have good teams, and in certain cases, investing with their own balance sheet on transferring background and relevant foreground for those companies. We requested support of certain instruments that could reduce the risk of RTOs engaging on this type of feature. To develop platforms of industrialization, we've seen that is a major problem for RTOs to find profiles in a context of industrialization. There are, on the other hand, many companies that are looking to diversify, particularly SMEs, into higher value added value chains, structuring a regional level a sort of platform where deep tech emerging companies could identify those industrialization capabilities that they require on companies that themselves are looking to diversify could be a winner. Governance and best practices from the onset at board level are very important. Obviously, programs to attract talent from outside the EU. To provide certain recognition and support to the role that RTOs are playing in fostering impactful deep tech companies, or at least to recognize the level that the role that they are playing. And I'm going to spend just a few seconds on these new outcome metrics, KPIs, to assess the success of deep tech ecosystems. And this is very important because we constantly are listening that the name of the game is to develop unicorn companies out of those different type of policies. And actually, let me share with you certain graphs. So on the left side, we have the amount of new unicorns being produced between 2012 and 2022. You could see an important spike that came out of the COVID, because most of the unicorns, and this is a spoiler, are coming actually from the digital realm. And most of the unicorns are actually B2C companies that sometimes don't innovate really, but they are a copycat of other digital innovative business models that are reproduced on a particular country. And I just copy here, for instance, WeWork, to make the point that a valuation doesn't make a business. Valuation is something subject to many changes. And we can see here that the amount of unicorns spike at some point in time, 220 new unicorns, because of everything thought during COVID that everyone is going to go digital. And then just this bubble busted when interest rates went up. So basically, ceteris paribus, just due to exogenous factors like the spike in interest rates, the bubble of unicorns, of the valuations, just busted. Just in the middle, very interesting, we have on the x-axis is valuation, ranging from 750 millions all the way to 1.2 billion euros valuation. On the y-axis, we have amount of companies that have reached this valuation. As we can see, there is a spike precisely a 1 billion euro valuation. What it means is that a lot of investors and companies are interested in saying in their portfolio that they have unicorns. This is just a representation. One day I was bored and I said, who are the unicorns in the world? I just captured them in this slide. The proxy for a certain unicorns in terms of deep tech, industrial deep tech, could be those hardware companies. So actually are not representative. Most of the companies are B2C, are coming from a consumer, are copycats in certain instances, not very sophisticated in terms of technology. And it's actually normal because to become a unicorn, that means that you need to have a company that scales quite fast. And usually you do that when you focus on B2C and digital. When we're talking about deep tech, we're talking about a totally different game. We're talking about creating the industries of the future, and we are talking about articulating new value chains. And I'm going just to finish here just with a suggestion in terms of probably a composite indicator where we could integrate 3 different type of metrics: employment generated by the startups, valuation, but not necessarily 1 billion euro valuation, and then the amount of suppliers that you can have in your supply chain. Obviously, this is more complicated to measure than the unicorn count, but is more in line with ascertaining the real impact that deep tech produces, focus on regional reindustrialization and the sovereignty of Europe on critical technologies. And we could move from unicorns, maybe we can call them Pegasus, but let's stop talking about unicorns. We're talking about the ultimate KPI for success on our ecosystems. And I'm going to actually stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Javier. I think you deserve a good virtual clap for going through the reports, which is full of information and recommendations. So any raised hands with questions? I didn't see any question on the chat, but you can see. Yeah, I see Ricardo. Please, Ricardo. Feel free to put, camera is nice. And Ricardo is from Inestec.
Yeah. So yeah, hello to both, and thank you so much for the excellent presentation and all the work and the fantastic data that is very useful. I just have a question that I wanted to clear on my head, which is related with this thing that I think I heard. I haven't read the report, I have to say, but I think I heard in your recommendations that you are somehow calling for a more deep incubation and the more long-term responsibility of those midfielders in the football pitch, and which makes that those midfielders actually are sometimes they score goals as well, right? Because they have to, because they will have to accompany the ball for a longer period of time. And I just wanted to know what kind of operational models you have in mind when you look at this, what kind of KPIs you had in mind when you analyzed, and if my reading is correct or if I heard correctly. If not, please correct me. And if this is correct, so because this is something that that is very pragmatic for the operation of RTOs like ours. And the other thing, very quickly, is also about the alignment with all of these recommendations from the startup and scale up strategy, and with European instruments in general. So the question is very simple. What can how can I put it? How can the EU design better aligned instruments that are specific to the stages of deep tech that come from RTOs? So, because this alignment is very difficult, and we have been trying to do it for decades now, and I think that is also related with the midfielder problem. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot. So just to start responding the second question, that's why I am so passionate about the unicorns, or the unicorn count not representing us. And I think it's very important that we do an advocacy role in terms of differentiate different type of technological entrepreneurship. It's not the same thing creating Uber than replicating Uber in Spain with a Cabify, than fostering a biotech company, than fostering a deep tech company. It's no better, it's no worse, are four different type of tech entrepreneurship that require different type of indicators in terms of to a certain success, trying to foster this type of entrepreneurship, and require different type of measures. So I think that probably deep tech is exciting for European Commission because indeed it's quite connected to technological sovereignty more than replicating an Uber company in Spain, and is more in line fostering deep tech companies in terms of creating employment of quality and helping regional reindustrialization. Because if you have particularly industrial deep tech, you can help diversify SMEs into higher value added value chains. Therefore, unicorn count doesn't make any sense. We have to look for new indicators. And I think that this is, by taking this low hanging fruit in terms of no one indicator fits all the different type of technological entrepreneurship endeavors, people can realize that different type of instruments and measures are required. And now I'm going to move into the midfield. For instance, if you want to replicate Uber or any other successful business model, the sort of venture builders are going to be quite simple. I mean, you organize a weekend, different teams, and you have very clear what you want is to replicate something that already exists. If you want to move a promising breakthrough technology from lab to market, you need a wide array of complementary capabilities. On the one hand, you need sort of PhD type of profiles who can ascertain this technological feasibility, who can see whether this product, whether this technology can actually materialize into a product that resolves a P&L problem, because it's B2B business model when we are talking about the deep tech usually. But at the same time, you need people in that team that are good at finance, at producing pitches, at producing business plans that are going to be recognized by investors. You need to maximize non-dilutive sources of funding, tax schemes, grants, in order to de-risk these type of opportunities. But you need to have the ability to create well-rounded teams. That is something that is quite complicated to execute with the right incentive system based on the type of skin in the game that each one of the team members is bringing to the table. But oftentimes people don't pay attention about governance. And governance is very important from the onset to have the right board, to focus on value maximization, on a strategy. So you have like four different type of profiles, just like in a midfield team. I mean, you have the midfielders that connect with the defense. You have the midfielders that pass actually to the strikers to score goals. And you have the people who go very well from the left-hand side and from the right-hand side. It's exactly the same. What we need is to complement our work as tech transfer offices with venture builders that help articulate this midfield in the European innovation ecosystem.
Okay, thanks. Maybe Alessandro, you want to add something before we have to close? I don't see any hands raised or question in the chat.
I think I'll refrain from throwing more fuel on the fire, but say that I have heard Dazier's concerns and he's not the first one to voice them.
Okay, good. I see one raised hand and then we have to close. So I think, Luca, you had a question as well.
Yes, thanks a lot, Muriel. I just have a very quick question. In the new startup and scale-up strategy, there is some KPIs that are mentioned, and maybe that's a question for you, Alessandro. Other measures like new supply chains or quality of jobs are not necessarily mentioned or reflected in the KPI of the new strategy. Is it something that the Commission is going to expand a bit, or is this unicorn count still the measure that is the most the target, I would say?
What a very good question. So what I can tell you, maybe avoid quoting me on this, because this is my understanding of the situation, is that these were the indicators that we were capable of identifying at this particular point in time, but the task force will continue to work for 4 years, and it will be responsible not just for developing some of the actions that the strategy proposes into fully fledged proposals, but also for monitoring the implementation of the strategy. That might include considering in more detail what other success criteria, measures, and performance indicators we might want to use. But that's a discussion that, if it happens, will happen over the course of the next few weeks and months.
Okay, I hope that answered your questions. Okay, I see question of time. I have to close the webinar by thanking very much Asier and Alessandro for taking the time in sharing all the data of the reports, but also the latest news of the task force. So I think much appreciated. And we will keep you updated if new reports are coming out of the TTO circle. And I think the TTO has its plenary at the end of the month. So for those who are not yet a member, do have a look of what the JRC is doing and the Competence Center of Tech Transfer. Always interested to have more members active in those discussions. So very much appreciated. And thanks again, Asier, Alessandro. Thanks a lot. So thumbs up.
Thank you very much, Muriel.
Real pleasure. Thanks, Muriel. Bye. Bye-bye.
Thanks.